This is Bartender HQ, and Jon Taffer from Bar Rescue is creating his own podcast. Let's talk about that. Thank you for joining me on this BartenderHQ.com podcast. I am your host, David Eden Sangwell. There's no Sam again this week. We are here on our own in the office at Bartender HQ, and this is going to be a little bit of a different episode. I am experimenting with a new format, so we are talking to you in a little bit more of a structured way, actually. In the past, the Bartender HQ podcast has gone through a lot of evolution. We're on about 130 episodes, something like that. We've done a lot. There's a lot of podcasts that don't last past 6. Certainly my first podcast, which was called Pseudo Apt Geek, which was a very techie podcast, didn't get past the number 6, which was... It's kind of known as being like the magic number for podcasts, so a lot of podcasts don't quite make it all the way through. However, we're still doing pretty well, I think. I feel like we're doing well. On this week's show, I want to give you a kind of update on Bartender HQ, what we're doing, where we're going, and also a little bit about my job, and things have changed again. So the job that I've been doing for quite a while is changing once again. Things don't seem to run smoothly where I am. The company went through a huge bit of turmoil recently. It was massive in the news, and I won't go into the details, but if you want to find out more about it, look up Conviviality/Bargain Booze in the UK, and you will find all the stuff that you need to know about it. Suffice it to say that Catalyst Brands that I worked for was part of the Matthew Clark Group, which is basically the biggest wholesaler in the UK. Things changed. There was a massive merger a few years ago, and now there's been a bit of a demerger, and different parts of that business are now in different hands, and the part of the business that I'm in is not necessarily going to have the marketing department that it had previously, which is why my job is potentially not going to be there anymore. So I'm just looking at options at the moment. If you have a spirits brand or a cocktail brand, a mixer brand, and you want some of this Bartender HQ goodness, let me know. I'm up for grabs. Apart from that, the Bartender HQ itself is doing very, very well. We've got a lot more people coming through the site. There's a lot more content going out. And this month is going to be 80s month. The end of this month, the 29th of July, is the 30th anniversary of Cocktail, the movie's release. So that is the Tom Cruise movie that made flair bartending what it is today, and probably inspired a whole generation of bartenders, whether they flair or not. There's a huge number of people that the whole reason they're in this industry and that they're flairing or making great cocktails or just generally working in the bar industry, it's all a part. You know, it all comes down to Cocktail. A huge number of people have joined the industry because of that movie. Love it or hate it, and there are certainly people that don't love Cocktail and don't love the connotation and get all of the hey Tom Cruise stuff going on because they make a cocktail. It has made a massive impact on this industry. We will be talking to people from the flair side of things. We'll be talking to people from every aspect of the industry over the next 30 days between now and the 29th of July. The 29th as well, Sam's Vanguard Bar will be showing Cocktail, the original, on its 30th anniversary, which I think is great. And I hope as many bartenders as possible can come and join us for that. The main course. So our main story today is Jon Taffer has released his No Excuses podcast. into the world. There's a couple of episodes out already, and number 3 is coming, I believe, on Tuesday. And if you've not heard it yet, it is well worth a listen. I know there are certain people in the industry that are not massive fans of Jon Taffer. I like the guy. I think he's great. I entirely understand the people that don't get him and don't feel like he's a positive force for the industry. I know where you're coming from, but I think you're wrong. And I'd love to have this discussion. So hit me up on Twitter at BartenderHQ or on our Facebook page, and I'll have this conversation. We'll get into it, and we'll get into why I think you're wrong. Jon Taffer has been in the industry for so many years, it's untrue. He's never been a guy to shy away from stuff. He has been at the cutting edge of the industry for many, many years. Now, I accept he's made a few missteps. There was certainly a thing about a year ago, I think, that bartenders were really up in arms about. I can't even remember what it was. I will find out what it was, and I'll put it in the show notes. If you go to bartenderhq.com/Jon Taffer, all one word, I will make sure that works. And he annoyed a lot of people, but I don't understand why. He is not a bartender. He's never been a full-time professional bartender. As far as I'm aware, I know he has worked in bars, he's worked in hotels, in restaurants, nightclubs. I don't think he's ever really focused on being a bartender, so he's not going to know like craft recipes, he's not going to know stuff like that. That doesn't matter. He is an operator, and he is there to run businesses. Now, the fact that he's brought out this podcast, No Excuses with Jon Taffer, I think is probably down to a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, who, if you follow my social media stuff, you will see that I'm a big fan of. And John was also a massive guest that he had on his Ask Gary V show. If you're interested in wine, I definitely suggest looking up Gary V. He took a retail wine store from, I think, $3 to $60 million in about 5 years, massively increased margins, all that sort of stuff. This guy is a legend in the wine business. He's now in the marketing business. He's not going to stop. You are going to hear about this guy, whether you see him on Jay Leno, which I think he was on, or if you see him on Colbert, you're going to see him on TV. This guy is massive. He's also one of the 4 guys on Apple's Planet of the Apps. So it was him alongside Jessica Alba, will.i.am, and Gwyneth Paltrow. Now, they are big names that I don't think anyone listening to this show will not have heard of. Gary V is the one you might not have heard of. He is probably the most successful of these people. Absorb that. What is Jon Taffer's new podcast about? So it's really cool because you get a bit of a behind the scenes look at what goes on Bar Rescue, and I love that show. I unapologetically think it is a great bit of TV. Now, it came out following things like Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, but it's the one that cares about the bar more than anything else. And if you've ever seen the video clip of Gordon Ramsay behind a bar, it's hilarious. He really struggles with things like mojitos, and you can tell he gains some respect for bartenders during this video. I will try and find, again, a link to this and put it in the show notes, because I think Gordon Ramsay bartending is just a wonderful, wonderful thing to witness. Also, the guy that he's bartending with, I think I worked with him at an opening of a restaurant several years back, probably 6-7 years ago. Very cool guy. If I remember correctly, he has a website called The Intoxicologist, and yeah, definitely check him out. But yeah, Jon Taffer's show is not just talking about bartending, it's also talking about business in general. So if you are if you're looking to do a little bit of business outside bartending, or you want to kind of start your own bar, or you want to do a consultancy, or you want to do anything in the industry or outside the industry that's to do with business, I absolutely recommend you check out his show, and I will link to it in our notes on bartenderhq.com/Jon Taffer, all one word. It seems like he's a Trump supporter, which surprised me, but not that much, because he's a businessman, and I see a lot of people in business that kind of have that Trump affinity, and I think he touches on this in one of the episodes as well. I don't mind at all, if people can justify what they believe, they have no problems in my book. If I can understand why someone supports something, then fine. If you just support it and say, oh yeah, because he's great, then I'm going to be skeptical and I'm going to ask you questions. If you come out and tell me right from the start, I know this guy's unpopular, but he's done this, and he's done this, and he's done this, and he's trying this. What I really like about John's attitude is, if you're making the effort, he is going to understand that, and he is going to appreciate it. And that's almost kind of the same with Gary Vaynerchuk. He is all about, he's one of these entrepreneur guys who is not about shortcuts. He's not about ways to cheat the system. He's not about ways to gain an advantage that you don't deserve. The only thing he's about is, this works, this doesn't. And the biggest thing that works is working hard. The second biggest thing that works is getting attention where it is underpriced. So he is huge on different platforms and different ways of buying attention in terms of things like Facebook ads and Instagram ads and influencer marketing and things like that, which a lot of people neglect and they don't really go deep into. And this guy is just one of those people that kind of sees the big picture ahead of time. Like, he knew that Facebook was going to buy Instagram, and then when it did, and it was, by everyone's estimation, overpriced, he went on TV and said no, they stole it because they didn't pay as much as it's worth. Everyone berated him on Twitter for it, everyone berated him on the internet, and he was proved right. Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg made the right decision to buy Instagram. Instagram is probably the number 2 social platform now. Now, it's crazy to think that Facebook is obviously number 1. Facebook is the one that more people use than anything else. Number 2 is probably Instagram now. It was certainly Twitter for a very long time. MySpace has obviously fallen by the wayside. Number 1 and number 2 are Google and YouTube, and Google owns YouTube. So, a huge amount of the search market, whether it's video or articles or pictures, is owned by, I think it's called Alphabet, is that right? And then you've got things like Amazon that's now going to send people into space through Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin, and you've got the guy that set up PayPal is going to send people into space with SpaceX, International Space Station. The world is massively changing. It's very, very difficult for small businesses to make enough noise, but you have to do something interesting. If you're not doing something interesting enough, you are not going to make enough noise to make a dent in the universe. So, start making videos. Start live streaming your bartenders, talk about your bartenders, all that kind of thing. Audio is a huge thing. Do you have an Amazon Alexa? Do you have a HomePod? Do you have a Google Home in your home? A lot of you will have said yes to this. And if you do, then you are part of this new revolution of people that are using voice to search for more stuff. Again, if you want to know more about this, look for the Gary Vaynerchuk stuff, Gary V on everything, or Facebook, I think it's just /Gary, which is, that's gangster. John Taffer's new podcast, No Excuses, and check out Gary Vaynerchuk, and you will not regret it, especially if you want to be involved in things like social media for your bar, which, if nobody else is doing it, or nobody in your business is doing it well, I very much recommend you go to GaryV.com or GaryVaynerchuk.com. One of these will work, and you find out exactly what he's doing on all his platforms, and you do the same thing because it will work. That's going to be pretty much it for me today. The one thing I'm going to ask you to do is to go over to Instagram.com and look for Bartender HQ Picks. I want to do a lot more on there. The next month is going to be 80s month. Cocktail turns 30 at the end of this month, at the end of July. So we are going to be doing 80s content all month. We're going to try and post every single day on the website. We're going to have stuff going on Instagram. We're going to have stuff going on Facebook. If you want to keep up to date with everything, I suggest you click the Get Notifications button on Instagram and Facebook, and then you will know as soon as we post stuff. Just leave us a comment. Leave us some information about yourself. Tell us where you work. That's what I'd like you to do, is tell me where do you work, and I would like to be able to come and visit your website so I can see what drinks you're selling. That is what I would like to be doing over the next few days. So leave me a link to the bar that you work in, as well as a little hello and a description of the style of the bar. That will do me very, very nicely. So I'm going to round it off here, guys. I'm David Eden Saintwell for the BartenderHQ.com podcast. Hit up our Instagram, and I will see you on next week's show. And there will be one next week, mark my words.